Saludos a todos. Hello, everybody. Welcome to this amazing channel that I like so much, Skeptic Haven. Today we have a very interesting interview with a very interesting guest. So let's start. It's going to be awesome. Hello, Mr. Tapia. What are you doing here? Nice to see you.
Nice to see you too, Theo. How are you?
I'm very happy to have you here. And for people who don't know this guy, well, he is one of these evil atheists who dare to talk against religion just like me. We have been talking a lot since when both of us started our channels, and now we have him here to tell you about why he stopped believing, what did he used to believe in, and why he's doing what he's doing. So, Mr. Tapia, I'm sure you have a lot to tell a lot to tell us.
Oh well, Theo. Let me put it this way: I was born in a Catholic home, with certain, I don't know, beliefs, in witchcraft, in the
Mhm.
paranormal, in ghost stories, and my mom used to say that my little sister had the power to predict earthquakes and stuff like that.
Oh, but you have the whole package.
Yeah, yeah. I used to believe in astrology. I studied astrology and studied handwriting and not quite tarot, but I learned how to read the Spanish cards. And okay, well, that kind of stuff. I was fascinated by. I think it's called in English the Witch Mountain, the Disney's Witch Mountain, that had these kids that can move things with their minds and stuff like that. Yeah, I used to believe a lot of goofy stuff and on the way back. Now that I
Were
think,
you were you one of those children that was, I don't know if obsessed, but was really interested into religion, would go to church, would live by the name of God, or was that something more part of just your family background?
Actually, as Catholics, we weren't that fanatic. We went to church every Sunday. My father used to pray to San Judas Tadeo a lot. We went. He took us to thank San Judas for whatever miracles or things he asked for. But we weren't particularly fanatic about the belief. I did my first communion when I was pretty much 11. Went through a process called catechesis. I can't remember how it's stated in English. But I did all the works. Like, I went to church every Sunday. I believed in this stuff. And thing is, as time went by, one gets to teenage years and adulthood, and sometimes I kept going to church, but it slowed down. Still, I always considered myself a Catholic, and I never stopped believing in magic, in
Before before we continue with that, you mentioned San Judas Tadeo, and maybe not everybody in the public is familiar with the idea of Santos in Spanish, or at least in the Catholic Church. Why don't we give them a little background about that so people know what we're talking about?
Okay, well, in the Catholic Church, they have a process called canonization. Okay, they canonize certain people that have certain merits. In particular, those who, during their lifetime or after death, are asked for something and they provide it, like a miracle. Pretty much miracle workers, and people pray to them.
Well, that's why there is a very famous process called procession to the Virgin. In Spanish, that would be procesión a la Virgen, which is when you pray to certain virgin because every country has their own virgin, and they have like each country is going to have a city with a different virgin. So you have Virgen de tal lugar, Virgen de la Carmelita, Virgen de I don't know.
The Virgin de Lourdes, Virgin de Guadalupe. Uh,
Those are the ones I never
The
remember.
Guadalupe Virgin is actually quite famous, not only in Mexico but worldwide. There's a huge procession of millions of people moving from all over the Mexican Republic and other places in the world to the Mexican Guadalupe Basilica, which is a huge church that has the remains of what the story says that there was native. That was, how do you say this? He had an experience with the Virgin, with the Virgin of Guadalupe, and there is like this um, shroud, pretty much the Virgin shroud, and it's still in the basilica right now.
Yeah, and we are all sure that it's totally real and it's not made up by anyone just to control people, right?
Yeah, and it's just a coincidence that it has many uh, attributes, or it's pretty similar to particular Spanish Virgin, the Virgin of Extremadura. And it's just a coincidence that Hernan Cortes, which conquered Mexico, or well, the country, came from Extremadura. That's just a coincidence.
A huge
So,
coincidence. Okay, so yeah, we all went to these processions. We have been, with our families. We had to see those big saints. In my case, I was part of other religions, so when I had to read this, don't make images of others instead of God, it was like, okay, what is the Catholic Church? And, uh, that is one of many things that started creating doubts about my beliefs. Was it similar for you? What was, those small things that you start to see in your own religion that it's like, okay, this doesn't add up. This is kind of strange.
I sometimes tell about a particular story with my mom when I was really small. I think it was before I got my first communion. That she casually, we were talking about prayer, and she casually mentioned about Muslims and that they always um, pray. That they pray 5 times a day or something like that, and then they always pray pointing to the west. And that moment I thought, like, west relative to what, right? But
Mhm.
okay. And but the thing that clicked in my mind was, oh, so not everybody is not everybody in the world Catholic?
Mhm.
Like
That's a big one.
that stayed in my mind, and I kind of I think I kind of chose to let it by, like let it slide, go in the back of my mind and stay there forever. But it lingered for decades. And what really happened is I love science as well, and I'm a particular. Um, I like reading a lot. I read literature, I read fantasy fiction, and I love science. I I've loved science for a very long time. So the first thing to fall down from my beliefs was astrology. When I realized that there cannot be a mechanism by which the position of the planets and stars could have any impact on the personality and fate of anyone ever. So astrology came crashing down. And it started a kind of a snowball effect where I uh, diminished my belief in the paranormal, like in telekinesis and that kind of stuff. But everything went well. How do I say this? I think what happened to me was similar to what happened to Matt Dillahunty. because I was visited right after I baptized my children, the week after, actually. And Jehovah's Witnesses visited me. And in my humility, I wanted to show them that their religion was wrong.
I'm sure you did a wonderful job.
Yeah. So then I started talking with them. We have a nice chat, etc. And we set up a second meeting next week. Obviously, they wanted to convert me to become a Jehovah's Witness, and I wanted to show them that their religion was wrong, that the true religion was Catholicism. So I started studying. I love reading, so I studied Jehovah's Witnesses story with the Whitfields and the book club, etc. I studied Mormonism. I studied Christian Science with Mary Baker Eddy. I studied Scientology because I was part of Dianetics for a year during the 90s. So I was like acquainted with that religion. And when I realized it was a religion, I kind of stepped back. But I didn't stop there. I went back in history, and then I found out that the church, the Vatican, practically, was selling passes to heaven. What's called in Spanish venta de indulgencias. It's selling a pardon in order for you to get to heaven. And that prompted up the Reformation. And I was like flummoxed. I was really surprised about that. So it hit me kind of hard. But still, well, that doesn't matter. God still exists, and well, those were some Catholics. So that doesn't mean that Catholicism is false, right? Okay. I kept studying. I went to different parts of history where I got to councils. The Council of Carmelitas Descalzas in English would be the I don't know. Well, the Carmelitas order, and I read about the Council of Nicaea with Constantine. I read about the Gospels. I read about the Gospels writings and the dates in which were those were written. I always thought they were actually written by Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. And then I learned that, well, they're anonymous. And I read about Jesus. I read about other religions, Zoroastrianism. I read about the cult of Mitra, for which there are some parallelisms with Jesus. And I read about Judaism, the Torah, and how practically, I don't know, most Jews don't accept Jesus as the Messiah because he was never anointed and stuff like that. I read about the history of the Jews. I was always a fan of mythology. So when I was a child, I read about a lot about Greek mythology and some northern Nordic mythology with Odin and Thor and Loki and Freya and the war against the giants, etc. And thing is, like I was really accustomed to this, and I got to the conclusion that well, all of this are made up by people, by humans, and there's no particular reason in order to think that one version of this is true over another. So I kind of stopped believing in Christianism, but I didn't stop believing in God.
I know the feeling.
Yeah. Thing is, part of my studies brought me to learn skepticism, learn more science. I was particularly into physics. I love the Big Bang Theory. I love the Big Bang, the show, and I love the theory about Lemaitre's cosmic egg, and
Sorry, my throat.
so once you realize all this, it backfired like really bad. Because I wanted to prove that Catholicism was right and Jehovah's Witnesses were wrong. Long story short, after a couple of visits by these guys, they stopped coming.
Why?
I have no idea.
They stopped coming. You destroy both religions. What? Good start. Congratulations. Very good.
But I didn't deny the existence of God. I actually started like consuming more science content. Kept reading, familiarized myself with scientific articles, and learn more about logic and skepticism and stuff. And then I got acquainted uh, a bit too late because it happened 1 year after the death of Christopher Hitchens. He was mentioned in a show that I listen. It's a podcast. It's called. I don't know if I can mention it here.
Yeah, go ahead. I don't think there's a problem.
Okay. The podcast is a science podcast. It's not an atheist podcast. It's called The Skeptic's Guide to the Universe with Steven Novella and his brothers and Evan Bernstein and Cara Santa Maria. And they're just wonderful. Thing is, they mentioned Christopher Hitchens, and they stated that he was a great skeptic, that he had the most ironic and forceful way to express his points, etc., etc. And then I started watching Christopher Hitchens.
Interesting.
And then it crashed on me, like in, I don't know, I can say that in over a month, or on I think it was a month and a half, I watched every single Christopher Hitchens debate that it's out there. I heard him over and back, and I realized I was an atheist.
So interesting. Personally, when I reached the atheism phase, when I thought, oh, so I'm not an agnostic that is in the middle because that doesn't exist. It was because of another show that lived the experience. I'm just going to mention it. Punish me later if you want you to. But that is when I realized, oh yeah, atheist is not somebody who denied God and all of that. It's just somebody who doesn't believe. For me, that was my big reveal, and it was when I started using the name. Okay, I'm an atheist, because before that I was just like, oh no, there could be a God, or okay, even if there is not a God, I'm not an atheist. I'm not going to deny anything. So it's cool how this podcast exists. I guess you and I have our shows in Spanish because of the same reason, because we want people to realize that, hey, you're not alone. Hey, being atheist is not, oh, we are evil and we're going to eat babies or silly stuff like that. For me, it's interesting that you went through this phase and started finding these people. On my case, I didn't have I didn't have anyone, so it was very weird for me to see there is a whole community out there. There is a whole group of people, and I'm not alone. Because when I stopped believing, I was extremely, yeah, I was going, this was my segue to this question. I was very lonely, but luckily I didn't feel rejected by my family, but I did feel rejected by society. So I was alone in that sense. Luckily I had my family. And that's why I wanted to read this one. This question is for you. Did you have family pressures, friend pressures, or something that contributed to you to either leaving the religion or not wanting to leave it?
Fortunately, no, there was no pressure, and actually, my angry atheist phase was really, really short because I realized that there is a big difference between lying and being lied to, and being, well, honestly mistaken. Yeah, and I think my parents were honestly mistaken. They fell victim to bad ideas, both of them, and they still are. My mother still thinks about alternative medicine and naturism, and at least she's not into homeopathy, but still, she kind of denies science-based medicine, which is kind of sad. But there it goes. My sister is into biodecodification, which is another brand of bullshit. I'm sorry to state it like that. Yeah. The thing is, they were pretty open. We had some discussions. They still believe they've heard me. We've had wonderful arguments with each other, and well, everybody stands and has an existential position about this in my house.
Okay, cool. Interesting there. Oh yeah, you were going to say?
Yeah, in my day-to-day life, I let me put it this way: one of my business associates, he's all but officially an Opus Dei member. Yeah, but still, we're best friends. We've been best friends for 33 years now. So uh, we work together. We talk about a lot of things, but we don't talk about this. We
Cool.
only talked about this once, and that's
And
it.
that's it.
Yeah, he wouldn't want to talk about it again. And in everyday life, I've found all kinds of people. Uh, some people tend to say something like whenever the conversation goes to it, because I don't go around. Oh, I'm an atheist. Let's talk. No, no, I have a channel for that. If somebody wants to talk with me about that, well, they can join up. But I'm not actively searching for people or knocking on doors. Oh, did you hear the good news? There is no God. Um, that would be like strange, right? Uh, but the usual statement is, I can't believe there is someone that doesn't believe anything.
Yeah,
Like, well, I can't believe that either. Right?
I can't believe there are people who actually believe in a god.
Yeah. So my journey began over there, like pretty much, I don't know, 13 years ago, something like that. 12, 13 years ago. And I kept going. I took on the agnostic atheist brand. Like I just don't believe it. I don't buy it. And all I have to tell you is I don't buy it. Okay, that went on for years, and I got acquainted with, as mentioned before, Matt Dillahunty's content. And as far as I know, it's only Aaron Ra, Matt Dillahunty, and Christopher Hitchens, the ones that I paid most attention for a long time. Okay, but obviously I like reading a lot, so I read about many things, science, and I realized that there was a lot of damage happening all over the place because of bad ideas. And I let me put it this way: my father had an accident a few years ago, and my mother's beliefs stopped him from having an operation, uh, as a surgery. And then, well, now his leg, at least after 6 years, now he had the surgery, and he's on his way to recovery for that leg. But that was 6 years after, because of beliefs, wrong beliefs. So that was part of the problem, right? I realized that, I don't know, having people, sorry, being willing to see their family and loved ones suffer or even die because of one of their beliefs, something like, I don't know, you cannot get a blood transfusion. That's kind of stupid and sad.
Yeah, that was a
And
big one for me when I left the Jehovah Witnesses. Like,
And
how
that's a
did
bad
he?
idea.
No, it's awful. They literally murder their children because of their ideas.
Hmm. But I think that the worst part of this is how we are taught once we are in a religion, once we are born in a religion. We are taught to obey authority. Okay. And many people who are religious don't realize this. I'm sorry. But once you are primed in the 614 window to obey authority, and then they leave you with the priest or uh, the pastor is an ultimate authority in their eyes, in the eyes of a child. It, it's actually like a setup moving along, and that has given us what we can see as the most damning and sad history of child abuse in all of human history. Religion brings that to life. I know that there is child abuse outside religion, but the way they make you obey authority, like it's it's a priming. It's you have to obey. Yeah. I used to say to my wife, there was one of the schools we visited in order to get our children inside, and in the signs it said I have to write well, I have to listen, blah blah blah, I have to obey, like a mantra for the kids. I went in with my wife, we had an appointment, etc. But it didn't matter whatever they said in the meeting. When once we were out, I told my wife, this is not going to be the school.
Mm.
Why? Because of that time.
Yeah, of course. Teaching children to obey regardless anything and not thinking by themselves is extremely harmful. We see that every day. We see that in politics. That's why politicians like religion so much. Oh, people just obey what we say and don't question anything. We, I always talk against Catholic Church and how they abuse children. And the idea is you cannot talk against the church because we are the authority and you do not question us. And yeah, some awful ideas about how men are supposed to lead the house and women are supposed to obey. How does that work in your house, Tapia? I'm sure the same way as the Bible says, right?
Yeah, sure, sure. That's the way. Actually, you bring up an anecdote with my brother, my big brother, and I have certain points of view that are contrasting, to say the least. And he once said, "No, who is the head of your household?" And I said, "Me," like in an impulse. Blah blah blah. And the discussion went on, but that set me up for thinking. It's not me, and it's not my wife. It's Reason. Yeah,
It's a
but
you didn't give that to your brother, but now it's a
I
good
told
one.
him later, but still, the discussion was already over. Then we went on after that into a discussion about the Anunnaki. Those kinds of beliefs my brother peddles, and he states, no, 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 it's just that the figure that changed the history in the world is Jesus. Then why do you think that we are in AC and DC and blah blah blah? Those
What's
kinds
the
of
reason thing? What do you mean by the reason? Because I really want you to expand in that. I like that answer a lot.
Okay, let me put it this way. Reasoning is a process. Reasoning, in order to reason well, you need to know the logical principles. You need to know, to understand some kind of inference laws. Like, you need to know how to make syllogisms, what is deduction and induction and abduction. You need to understand how your thought process works and how to put it in sentences that pretty much go from premise A to B to conclusion, etc. If you understand how to do that, and then you can get to reasonable conclusions. You go from true premises to a conclusion, and when I say reason is the head of the household, is because my wife and I talk about things and make decisions together. Yeah, and we think and we evaluate the situations, and we evaluate what we want, and what's the goal, or what do we want to solve, and then we take steps towards that together.
Very good, Tapia. Very good. Sir, since that wonderful episode you and I had in my show about secular parenting, people see you as a very reasonable person who is very good at giving advice. And here we have a very good question that I want our dear West to show us, which says, I think certainly all these deconversion stories are a little bit different. But if someone comes to me and asks to know my thoughts while they're requesting, here's the question. What do I do? What not to do? What would be your advice, sir?
Okay, just be honest. Just be completely honest, and if they ask you something you don't know, well, try to investigate together. If you really want to help that person, um, well, if someone is having questions, that's great. I'd rather have a billion questions that have no answer than one answer that can't be questioned. That's not my quote, by the way.
Beautiful answer. I would like to add that nobody asked me, but just in case, if you want my opinion, if somebody asks you something that you don't know, say that you don't know. Be honest about it. Not knowing something for me is intellectual honesty, something that should be applauded. And we are used to you need to have an answer. No, sometimes we don't know, and that's it. And
That's right.
yeah, and if you are not an activist like Rafa and I, well, you are not obliged to answer everything. We have shows. We have to answer everything because we are there to do that. And if we don't know, it's our duty to say that I don't know that we don't know. But if you're
Remember
just an atheist, yeah, please go ahead.
Remember though that recently I tried to redefine atheism, like skeptical atheism, like the basic, the foundation on which atheism lies. Skeptical atheism implies that you have listened and studied a bit about the arguments and supposed evidence or evidences about different religions and gods, and well, didn't find them persuasive, didn't convince you.
Well, you and I disagree, and that's why I love you so much, dude. I
Well,
just
I
keep
think
saying
that's
that
just
it.
skeptical atheism, right? Like the basis, you just don't believe it, right?
Yeah, of course. But the part of okay, that's for another show. But yeah, the part of do you have to really know? I mean, if you're an activist, yes, of course,
Of
definitely.
course.
If you're just somebody who's questioning and decides, I don't even care. What I could usually call or I used to call an apathic agnostic. It's just an apathic atheist. They don't believe and
Yeah.
they don't care about it. So
It's called apatheism.
apathy,
You know,
yeah, it is.
in Spanish, apateísmo.
Apatheism. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's why I personally divide it into believer and non-believer. But once again, that's for another show because now we have another question for you. I find it reasoning isn't something people have an equal amount. For real thought, I think people that believe are often there for emotional reasons and stay for emotional reasons to not leave family. Ooh, my best friend could follow that.
I kind of agree. There is some kind of twisted logic in my household. There are some episodes that, if I were to tell you, you would say like, "How that thing doesn't lead to the other." But that's how I grew up. I grew up learning to never be wrong. Like, and it doesn't matter if I was wrong, I would never accept it. No, it was somebody else's fault. I know everything, and if I don't know it, I invent it.
Yeah, you know everything, and if you not, make it up. And that is a hard thing to leave behind.
Yeah, and then that's just stupid. We're all
Yeah.
ignorant. The thing is, in the way you're saying, when we are activists, of course we have to investigate stuff and know stuff. But if you're just a regular atheist, I think it's just a humility position. You're just saying, well, I don't find the Earth and humanity that important as you do. What do you mean? Well, I don't think the universe started because of us.
And that's why I love this guy so much. We have another question for you. This is from Native Atheist, and he asks, is it dangerous to be atheist where you are? Oh, this is for both of us. In my case, I'm going to answer first because I want you to have the best answer. In my case, it's kind of not really, but some people prefer to be safe and they don't even show their faces. That's terrible, but those people, but that's their stuff. It is a little bit, yeah, because you could lose your job and stuff like that, or you could be persecuted or rejected if you live in a small town. I've heard stories. I don't know if it's the same where you live, Mr. Tapia.
Not quite. I live in Mexico City, which is pretty progressive, and it doesn't seem to be like some kind of persecution, etc. The Mexican work law states that you cannot be like fired because or your religion or lack of it. And well, I'm the boss in my business, so I cannot be fired unless I fire myself, right? But still, I think there is some kind of I don't know, legacy segregation or discrimination going on, because it's been at least 2,000 years of discourse about how atheists and how us atheists enjoy eating babies with salt, pepper, and a bit of sauce.
Yeah, but that's because all atheists are communists, and communists are the ones eating babies. So don't you know that? Learn your atheist history, Mr.
And
Tapia.
that's another thing. No, every atheist is a communist. Really?
Sure, you haven't talked about politics with atheists, for what I can say.
Well, me and my business disagree.
So, does your business need a new employee? Because Mexico City sounds like a nice place to visit once in a while. Just
Mm,
asking. We'll send you my resume for
sure,
apply for it.
if you have the skills, let's go for it, man. You
I
know.
don't, but I will still try. So, as I have mentioned before, as I see some logos around your face, interesting to see those there. Apparently, you also have your own channel. Any words about that? Why are you an evil atheist talking about atheism on the internet? Don't you want to preach about atheism? Is it that? Is it something different? Let us know, sir.
Well, I made the channel out of impulse about three 3 years and a few months ago. Thing is, I started doing like atheist activism about, I think, 8 years ago in Facebook and other social networks, and it was really great. I did it first thing because, well, I don't know if that happens to everyone. I think it kind of does. But once you get hold of something you see as a good idea, you want it to propagate. Like, okay, I think I understand that we can work together, we can cooperate. We're all humans, we're all searching for the truth, and I think that if there is no truth to a proposition, then it shouldn't be believed. So let's talk about it. So I was an agnostic atheist for 6, 7 of those 8 years, and in one of those times, there was a WhatsApp group in which I participated, and discussions here, discussions go, and so on and so forth. And there once was a really bad discussion with the owner of the group, and we left like in procession. Like, I don't know, the group was like 70 people, and 25 or almost 30 left the same day at the same time. And somebody, I think Sebastian Puc, part of La Cantina Lateo, opened the new group. And we all went in and started talking and started chatting. And somebody said, well, let's bring the beers, etc. And then somebody said, yeah, the beers and the beverages, then this is going to become La Cantina Lateo. And it was like a joke, but 5 minutes later, I was loading a photo with a logo that said La Cantina Lateo with a hyena, and they loved it, and I loved it. So we made the WhatsApp group and started discussing in there and invited people and have long discussions, and it was fun for a while. And then I wanted to have those discussions live on video. So I started Zoom meetings. The pandemics was going on like big time, and after the Zoom meetings, I started with what's it called? There's a platform, an online platform in which you can set up meetings for free, and I started using that, and that has a link towards YouTube, so you can for free you can have this kind of meetings and transmit to YouTube, stream to YouTube live, or record and then transmit, right? So, and that became a thing, and we started having these discussions like almost every day on every single topic you can think about. That's how La Cantina Lateo started. But people came and went. Like I started the channel, and there were several persons of the La Cantina WhatsApp group, and then some other people came. I set up the Discord server, and that's when it exploded. Like the Discord server has over 600 people right now and growing. uh the channel started well being more watched. I am sorry for your English speaking audience. I only have one episode in English. I'll try to make some some content in English further away. And thing is, right now I'm the kind of person that goes to TikTok and has live streams and have long conversations with people that believe that a God exists, or that believe that, I don't know, being part of the LGBTQ plus community is wrong, or that have abortion issues, or that think that morality, that we atheists cannot be moral and stuff like that. And I have those discussions all over the place. And then it became philosophical in that same year. I met several philosophical arguments or people, and they showed me a lot of stuff. Not only theists but atheists alike. So I started delving in philosophy, and once you're in there, you just don't leave. I loved it. I loved it so much that eventually I became positive atheist or strong atheist, whatever you want to say. About a year and a half ago, I started affirming, okay, there are no goats and there cannot be any, and I can argue for that, and I argue for that philosophically. I I want to have those discussions with people that know philosophy, that know their, I don't know, their ontological arguments, their Aquinas five ways, or their Kalam and stuff like that. And I love those kinds of discussions. But well, usually it doesn't happen so much in the Discord server, but in La Cantina Lateo and TikTok, everybody comes up and starts stating, well, everything that's moved, it's moved so by something else, that it's an act, blah, 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 which is kind of fun. I can't hear you, Theo. I don't know if there's a problem with your mic.
Let me see.
Oh, there. Okay. No.
Is it
There.
working properly now?
Now, yeah.
Okay, you scared me there for a moment. Okay, so far we have been talking about your childhood, what you do now, the channel, how life is in your home. I want to know what motivates you now to continue doing all this, because yeah, we know how it started, but what keeps you now doing stuff?
I love doing this. I actually love doing this. I love studying, and I love having conversations. I love having debates. I actually wrote to the Modern Day Debate channel in order to participate in their debates. I actually want to make a Spanish speaking channel called Debates Sin Fronteras, in order to emulate modern day debates platform. I I think that this is important. These conversations are important. No, there's usually the idea that politics, religion, and sports are not to be talked about. Well, yeah, that's true if you're a salesman, but not in particular. We need to talk about this stuff, especially politics and religion. I
True.
don't delve too much in politics, but in religion, man, having bad ideas, having beliefs that are not true, it's really, really detrimental for the people that believe it and the people around them.
Yeah, and well, oh, okay. This one is a good one. I was going to go to another point, but this is a very good question. Somebody is asking you, as I mentioned, that we have an episode of parenting, secular parenting. This is perfect for that. Do you have kids? And if you do, how do you approach religion? A good one.
Yeah, I have kids. They actually they're both baptized.
Oh gosh.
Uh, yeah, because I became an atheist after the baptism. So they have godfathers and godmothers and stuff. Thing is, I started teaching them a lot of logic, and I started like I used to read and tell stories to my kids when they were really young, like 3, 4, 5 years old. I read the Icaros story in Greek mythology. I read them the story of Theseus, Narcissus, and some other Greek mythology, some other Nordic mythology. I read some of the 1001 Nights in Arab history, and I started telling them about the different religions in the world. I taught them logic. My son at 6 year old was already capable to make up syllogisms and notice the flaws in a syllogism when it was poorly constructed at 6 years old. So how do I approach religion? Well, I told them that there are many religions that all believe different things, and in a separate way, in some other conversation, I taught them that, well, our beliefs need to have justification and sustenance. We need to have some kind of evidence or good reason to believe something, to believe that something is there, or to believe some conclusion in particular. So it didn't take too much. They cannot, and they're both. They don't use the label. They don't care. They have um, my daughter has a Muslim classmate, a bunch of Catholic classmates, and a couple of evangelical classmates, even a Pentecostal, I think. And they don't care. The same way they don't care about a couple of same sex young people kissing in the street once we walk around them. They don't care. Like it's nothing for them. It's just part of life. It's part of diversity. It's part of the world. So, how do I approach it with logic? I taught them how to think. Usually, I tend to say, well, I don't like teaching them what to think. You can't avoid it. It's unavoidable. You need to like tell them true stuff, okay, or try to tell them true stuff. But one of the things that was paramount in my teaching with my kids was I can be wrong. Yeah, never believe what I say because I said it. Believe it because there are good reasons to believe it, or don't believe it. And they have corrected me a couple of times at least. Yeah, and they have their own way of thinking. They have their own criteria. They analyze stuff on their own. They get to their own conclusions. As a parent, I feel really really proud of both my kids. They're both impressive. They're well behaved. They don't have conduct problems, etc. right? So fortunately, I'm really blessed to have those kids. And thing is, there's an episode with my the director, the principal at school, when they were going out of elementary to mid school. I was thinking of changing schools, and the principal told me, "Well, you need a good school, and we need good students. How about you stay here?" Yeah.
Um, and what do they think about your channel? Do they watch you online? Are they watching now? Will they be watching this in future? Maybe they will show this to their children in future, and they will say, "Oh, that was my grandfather." But what about your children?
Well, my Iker, my oldest son. Well, I have a boy and a girl, and that's it. I've already closed the factory. I went and got a vasectomy, and well, he actually gave me a 45-minute lecture on how to do social networking and YouTube streaming.
I have to teach me.
Yeah, he taught me. He told me he watched some of my videos, and then he stopped on the video and he said, "Okay, this is wrong. This is wrong. This setup is it's not going to work." And well, he changed a lot of things. He gave me a lot of advice. I have not used all of it, but he like made a full analysis of La Cantina del Ateo on his own without me asking anything. Yeah,
Very child.
yeah. And well, now he's interested in his stuff. He's a 14-year-old. He's a hormone festival walking man. He's probably busy, I don't know, with his hands or something like that. He's in the age, right?
Okay, that's good. That's interesting.
Oh, by the way, people, I don't know if you can see, but there should be a dollar sign in the chat below the chat. You can ask your questions by super chats as well in this channel.
Yeah, like that. We will read your question, whatever it is. We will have to read them. It's an obligation.
Exactly.
And talking about obligations and patrons, I would like to thank our patrons: Eric Ozols, Rion, Deneen Murphy, Dan D, Michael Wiseman, Cindy Plaza, Sunny Show, Aaron Coalson, Phil Calderone, Amanda McLeod, and Logan Fisher. Thank you guys. Without you, this would not be possible. You are awesome. You're amazing. You're the best. And of course, with that, I'm extremely happy that we had you here today, Mr. Rafael Tapia. It's always a pleasure talking with you. And I would like to let you finish the today's episode by giving your final thoughts and telling us what you think and what do you think and why, Mr. Tapia.
Okay, well, I just checked on the YouTube video, and I'm sorry to say that yeah, the super chat's not working, at least not in my view. Sorry about that. So, final thoughts. Well, we can all be victims of bad ideas. Being wrong, being honestly mistaken about something is not lying. They're not the same thing. Yeah. So be kind. Be mindful that well, we can all be wrong at some point. Obviously, we can have our own interpretations of the world, but the facts do not lie. And the fact is, we have no good evidence to believe something like there is someone that can make universes appear. There's not enough good reason to believe that. Yeah. Analyze.
Nice words, sir. Nice words. And with that, thank you, everybody. See you soon and have a wonderful weekend. We will be here for you.